Hello, people. It's me again. Just sharing an update on what I've been working on for all of us and all of you. Basically, the people. That's what we all need to do. We all need to stand up and speak our word. So, this latest project I call the People's Share. I'm going to be presenting it after stuff quiets down and cases aren't in action and actively being litigated. So this is the case for a citizen's dividend on the money we make together. Start with something you already feel in your own pocket. The dollar in your hand buys less than it did, not because you earn less or you work less. You may have worked more, but because there is more money in the system than there used to be. And each new dollar makes the ones you're holding worth a little less. You didn't vote for that. You weren't asked. But you paid for it quietly. Every time you filled a cart or a gas tank and watched the number climb. Here's the part that nobody explains at the counter. That new money didn't come from a vault. It came from lending. In our system, when a bank makes a loan, it doesn't hand over someone else's savings. It creates a new deposit on the spot by writing it into existence. That isn't conspiracy theory. The Bank of England published it plainly. You can look it up. The money supply grows primarily when the public borrows, which means the expansion is driven in large part by us, by our mortgages, our cards, our need to get through the month. So the question that ought to keep you up at night is simple. If our activity creates the expansion, and the expansion costs us purchasing power, where does that value go? Well, 300 years ago, a banker named Richard Cantillon noticed something the textbooks still can't wash out. New money doesn't reach everyone at the same time. It enters the system at particular doors, and it ripples outward from there. Whoever stands nearest to those doors, the banks, the financial houses, the owners of assets, gets to spend the new money before prices rise. Whoever stands farthest from the door, the person earning wages, the person on a fixed income, the saver, they get the new money last. After prices have already climbed, their paycheck catches up to the cost of living only once the cost of living has already run ahead. Economists have a dry name for this: the Cantillon effect. Strip the jargon, and it says this: the money machine is not neutral. It quietly moves real wealth from the people at the back of the line to the people at the front of the line. And your place in that line was decided for you. There's a second name you should keep in your pocket: seigniorage. The profit that comes from creating money. When the government creates money, that profit flows back to the public. The Federal Reserve sends its earnings to the Treasury, which is to say, back toward us. But when a private bank creates money by lending, it keeps the spread. So the cost of money creation Your thinning dollar is shared by everyone, while a large share of the benefit is captured privately. Socialized cost, privatized gain. That's not a slogan. That's the architecture. Legal was never the same word as just. Think for that a second. Legal does not mean the same thing as just. Someone will tell you all of this is perfectly legal. And they're right. It is. But hold that word up to the light, legal, because history is very unkind to it. Slavery was legal where it was practiced. Apartheid was written into statute. The race laws of the Third Reich were duly enacted law in the place where they were enforced. And when the world finally sat in judgment at Nuremberg, the defense was, but it was legal under our law, and that was thrown out. Because the tribunal recognized a standard that sits above whatever a legislature happens to write down. Nearly every atrocity in the human record was lawful somewhere. Legality has blessed monstrous things. It is the description of what is permitted, not a verdict on what is right. The people who ended those wrongs didn't do it by begging the courts that enforced them to declare them void. They did it by naming the injustice so plainly and pressing it so relentlessly that the law itself was forced to change. That's the fight right here. Not a clever motion, a change of conscience followed by a change of code. Jefferson saw it coming. Thomas Jefferson. This isn't new fear, and it isn't fringe. It sits at the root of the Republic. In a letter to John Taylor in 1816, Thomas Jefferson wrote that he sincerely believed that banking establishments are more dangerous than standing armies. He wasn't raging at the teller. He was warning that a private power over money could grow to rival the power of the state itself, and do it without ever facing a voter. Sound familiar? 3 years earlier, writing to John Wales Epps in 1813, he named the remedy in a single line. Bank paper, he said, must be suppressed, and the circulating medium restored to the nation to whom it belongs. To whom it belongs. Jefferson understood 2 centuries ago what the counter never tells you today. The money power is not by right, private property. It is a public thing, and the public has a claim on it. This is where I come to the people's share. So what do we actually want? Well, not to burn the system down. We live inside it. We need it to work. We want what Jefferson named, a share of what belongs to us, restored. The good news is this isn't just a fantasy. That anyone has to invent. Working models already exist. Yeah, I know we've all been scared of what they are because of socialism, and they'll crash the nation, and you need to look at it for what it is with our current monetary system, our money supply, or should I say fiat supply. Alaska already does it. Every year, the Alaska Permanent Fund pays every resident a dividend, a direct cash share of the collectively owned wealth. What the whole state owns together is a people. They share the wealth that is derived from it. Nobody there thinks it's radical. It's just their share. And they'd fight you to keep it. Now, if a state can pay its people a dividend on oil pulled from common ground, a nation can pay its people a dividend on the value created by a money system their own activity expands. Same concept, same premise. Public banks already work. North Dakota has run a state-owned bank for over a century, keeping the spread on the public's money in public's hands, funding the state's own people instead of shipping the profit out. Excuse me. It isn't theory. It has a balance sheet. And there's a name for the reform. The sovereign money. The sovereign money movement. Serious economists, not cranks, argue that the profit from creating money should return to the public that bears its cost. Writers like Peter Barnes have laid out exactly how commonly created value can fund a universal dividend paid to everyone as a matter of ownership, not charity. Put it together, and the ask becomes concrete and unembarrassing. If our borrowing expands the money supply, and that expansion enriches whoever stands first in line, while it thins the dollar of everyone behind it, then a measurable share of that gain should be returned to the people who fund it. If you're losing value, you should get a little more to compensate the loss. Call it a citizen's dividend. Call it the people's share. Call it, in Jefferson's words, the circulating medium restored to the nation to whom it belongs. Now, where this fight gets won, it's the most important thing here, because it decides whether this changes anything or it just rattles around online. You'll be tempted to take this conversation, this presentment that I'm giving you, into a courtroom, to walk into a case and demand a judge declare the whole arrangement void because you see how it works. Don't. That's the one move that reliably fails, because you'd be asking the institution that enforces the system to abolish it. The Cantillon effect isn't illegal. privatized seigniorage isn't illegal. That's exactly the point. It's legal and wrong. And legal but wrong is not undone at the clerk's window. It's undone in the open, in plain language, in the places ordinary people gather, in the pressure that turns a private grievance into a public demand. And finally, in legislation, a dividend written into law the way Alaska wrote theirs. The value is always ours. It's created out of our lives, our labor, our borrowing, our need. The system that grew up around it decided we stand at the back of the line and get told nothing. That decision was made by people. It can be unmade by people. So I think it's give me a second. It's high time we all, the people, start acting like we're the third monkey trying to get on Noah's Ark. And brother, it's starting to rain. You have a good day. I love you all.